The dual portal device should be around here somewhere. Once you find it, we can start testing, just like old times.
Oh, good. I've got a phone call again. Awesome.
Josh, that's like the second time that's happened in the course of this series, and both have happened in the last week.
Look, I haven't been. Stuff's been going on.
Hold on.
Do you think they have a guy at Valve that's like the DeBris guy? So they're like, hey, guy who makes a bunch of debris, come on over and work on Portal 2. I know you've been busy with Half-Life, but we need a bunch of weird metal things on the ground again.
Rufus refuse debris. Clutter master.
He's
Clutter master.
I feel like they don't specialize at Valve nearly enough to have a rubble guy.
But like you say Rufus Debris is his name, and now I'm just picturing like a Cajun guy that is like Rufus Debris.
He's not even like, doesn't even look like a game developer. He's just like, looks like a mechanic from Louisiana. And just like they call him Rufus Debris. He's like the best, he's like the greatest specialist on the Western Seaboard.
I was able. Well,
He's seen so much debris in his life.
He just appears at a jalopy. Starts like, he's got this huge broom handle mustache.
Owns a tugboat for some reason.
He tugs around his debris along the river.
He drives into work in Seattle on a car version of the tugboat.
Oh,
I
fuck
collect
yeah.
garbage from all 50 states.
One of those cars that can also be a boat. I saw that at Disney World once.
So there's nothing to stop us from testing.
I like those cars. Those are neat. But it's
Have
too
you been
expensive
in
to go
them?
in one.
No,
it's
right,
like $200.
exactly.
I might take up a
Not,
hobby.
yeah.
Reanimating the dead, maybe.
I'm really into Rufus Debris. We haven't had a character in a while.
Finally.
Sorry about the mess.
I will say that, like, I make scenery as a hobby now. It's like kind of one of the things that I've been getting into over the past year or so. And debris is the most fun part of like making miniature scenery. Because you can't really fuck it up. Like, it'll always look a little good, just because you're adding detail and like chaos. So it's all about like, how can you make it look really, really good?
I think there's a part of our brains that like clutter or debris. I think there's just something about it. Like, did you know that if you want bumblebees in your garden, you should put down some sticks and some leaves and maybe a puddle? Because they love clutter. And if bumblebees love clutter, why not me, a human?
It's a very good thesis.
I forgot how good you are at this.
So one thing we haven't talked about. Oh, go ahead.
No, I know where I was going with that. Go ahead.
One of the weird running gags in this game is the pneumatic tube stuff. Every time we exit a level in Portal, it's an elevator, but every time we leave anything here, it's in a pneumatic tube. And every time we like reach the end of the level, you can see all the crap get sucked out of the way through the tubes as GLaDOS slowly reactivates the whole system. It's. I'm not sure I understand the running joke, but it is definitely a running joke.
We'll both get to see how they work.
I think it's just funny because like. It really emphasizes how much this place has gotten to shit that, like, it's sort of thing where you meet someone and, like, they're like, oh, let's go get, like, the board game, and they just have to move a bunch of junk that's lying around just so they can access their board game closet. Like, that is every single room in this game. Like, GLaDOS just has to move around a bunch of garbage that's been piling up and, like, suck it through tubes into God knows where just so that you can transport you to the next floor.
The one thing that is disappointing to me is there's no skeletons. I would have loved a little skeleton in one of the things, a little skeleton gag. Everyone loves skeleton gags. Why not? Why not?
It's actually a weird discipline of the Portal series. I don't think there's any skeletons in Portal 1, even though it would make total sense.
Yeah, there should be a skeleton. It's not like they're on the Titanic and the sea salt ate the bones, okay? And the only thing left is
Yeah, it seems like specifically like a rule that they somebody articulated that creative rule that there's like no human remains in Portal, which is very funny to me.
You are a horrible
But also
person.
interesting.
That's what it says. A horrible person. We weren't even testing for that.
I think they might have thought that
GLaDOS in
was
the
just,
original
like,
game is also like she's a bit more coy, whereas in this one she's just like 100% done with you.
Don't let
Yeah,
that
'cause you
go
killed her,
and
remember?
discourage you. It's just a data point. If it
Remember
makes you
that
feel any
time?
better.
It was
Science
you,
has now
it was
validated your
GLaDOS,
birth mother's
there was
decision to abandon
neurotoxin,
you on a
you know the
doorstep.
one.
This whole game is
GLaDOS
hilarious,
just
but
mentioned that.
her dialogue here is just like every single line is solid gold. They really polished the shit out of it.
I guess the pneumatic tubes also harkens to the new direction for Aperture, because in Portal 1, Aperture was meant to be a Black Mesa competitor, right? Like a military-industrial complex sort of place. And here it very much is sort of a, like, decaying 1960s Walt Disney vision of the world of tomorrow, Mid-Atlantic kind of thing. And so the pneumatic tubes, I think, harken to that.
On the test. Most people emerge
I've never
from
heard
suspension
Camster just,
terribly
like,
undernourished.
turn it
I
on
want
like
to
that
congratulate
before in my
you on
life.
beating the odds and somehow managing to pack
This is the
on.
probably the most controversial, like, joke series. Oh, shit, we found, some Ratman
See?
stuff.
Ratman.
And those
Yeah, Sucker's Luck
are
Exile.
from the song.
Beans.
Poor Ratman got fired from doing, like, all the covers from, like, punk and industrial band album covers in the 90s with the font.
Ah! Shit.
You ruined.
It really feels good in this game whenever you manage to, like, deploy the perfect number of portals to do something. Like, where you remember where a portal is and just, like, not only manage to complete the puzzle, but manage to do it, like, with the fewest steps possible.
Yeah.
You know what? One of the reasons why that feels so good? It's sound. This game is so good at having audio cues for you, so you kind of know, like, oh, that's the hum of a laser, that's the sound when I get the button right, that's the sound when the chamber unlocks. It's all sound-based.
You are navigating these test chambers faster than
You know what this kind of feels like in a lot of ways is a precursor to Titanfall 2.
Whatever it is you do when you're not destroying this facility.
What?
In terms of level design, like, remember the level in Titanfall 2 where they're literally building the factory and the entire level is turning around you?
Oh, yeah.
A lot of that stuff is done here first.
Titanfall 2 came out after I had, like, reached my global limit on playing PvP against internet strangers.
Yep.
Well, Titanfall 2 had a single-player campaign.
Okay. That's cool. I don't know, maybe I'll play it. I say that, I played Sea of Thieves for like 700 hours in the past 2 years.
Yes.
Yeah, but you got a little buddy to play it with. It's different.
I got a buddy, and we avoid picking fights, and we've actually gotten weirdly good at diplomacy. Like, when I think back on what is our greatest achievement in Sea of Thieves, genuinely, it is the time we managed to talk down, like, 3 different players in Alliance from killing each other when they were already trying to do it. Like, there was a situation that happened in a game where we were, like, stacking events with this other player, and for convenience and, like, completion's sake, we were flying the Reaper flag, which is, like, the PvP faction. And someone else came in and tried to join us, and then the person we were already partnering with was like, yeah, this other person's gonna take the money and run, let's sink them! And then just, like, opened fire on them with cannons, and then fucking bounced. And the other, like, it just, like, took one shot and then left. It didn't even try to finish the job, leaving us with the other ship of, like, outnumbering us 2-1 with, like, 4 times as many cannons. Like, shooting our sloop, like, oh, we were betrayed. And, like, we had to talk them down. It was like a Star Trek episode. We're like, listen, no, hey, listen, this is what happened. And they're like, we don't believe you. And we're like, that makes sense because it's very stupid, but listen. And we managed to save the Alliance.
Good job.
There was another encounter we got into last week because there's been this big event where people have been trying to save or destroy one of the main, like one of people's favorite towns in the game, and we were on the save team, which means we were sailing around just like delivering supplies. It was purely a humanitarian mission. We weren't carrying any treasure aboard. But at some point we arrive at a port and there's already a ship at the port and there's another ship sailing in, which normally we wouldn't fuck with all this many people, but like we're just trying to sell the crates, whatever. So we get there, and the ship that's arriving starts opening fire on the ship that's already at port. And we hail them like, hey, listen, we're not... And they're like, yeah, no, we're not worried about you. We're just attacking that ship. We know they got some good stuff. But as we're sailing off, one of them jumps aboard our ship and is like... And we're like, hey, and he's just like, I don't trust you. I don't know if you're really going away. We're like, well, we're currently sailing away. He's like, yeah, but you're sailing away towards my ship. And I said, we just sailed past your ship. And he's like, fair enough, I like your outfit. Have a nice day. And he jumped off.
It's so historically accurate, you know, that game.
Exactly like what the Golden Age of Piracy was like.
Easily.
So we're not, I don't know if we're going to have much time to even get into it, but this game has a co-op mode, and the co-op mode for this game is a completely separate mini-campaign with all new voice acting characters and puzzles.
It is a test, like going to IKEA, but virtually. Do not play the multiplayer game unless it's with someone that you really care about and know that you can work through the differences.
Do you know what the tricky thing about it is, though? I've only played the first level because I had like one like robot husband, or, like robot wife picked out, which is like what people were calling it back in the day in my group of clans and stuff. And then like there was a schedule weirdness where then that person ended up like playing all of the other levels with somebody else, which meant that I didn't have, like, by the time I was ready to do all of the other levels, everyone else had already played them. So the prospect of playing all of these co-op levels with someone who already knew the puzzle solutions and was just impatiently standing around waiting for me to figure it out just did not appeal to me.
There was a DLC for it that had story stuff, if I remember correctly. Like, it had some...
No, I was going to say, I think that's the, what was it, DLC for the multi... Are you talking about the Cave Johnson stuff?
Yeah, I thought that was from the robots, right?
I think that's from they released the ability to make your own little portal puzzles, and it was sort of like a Mario Maker, if I remember right, where you had to, like, solve it to prove it was solvable, but then, like, you could put it up online, and just as you went through the different user-created levels, it was like you were going between dimensions and meeting all the different Cave Johnsons, because it was different versions of Aperture Science stuff. I could be wrong about that. I could be very wrong about that, but that's what I
No, that sounds
remember.
right. That sounds right to me.
Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. You can... Sorry.
No, don't apologize. It's fine. I was just saying, like, that was... I thought it was multiplayer, because I remember, like, being like, alright, fine, I'll do it. You know what? I bet it was multiplayer to tease the you can make your own portals thing, because they used to do shit like that, where it's like, if you get to this, we're gonna tease something cool, and then they would have the actual DLC.
Oh, you know what? I'm looking it up now. The puzzle creator did let you make single or co-op puzzles, so you may have done it in co-op.
Okay, that explains it.
Oh, that's wrong. Oh. Yeah, that's way more stupidly easy than I thought it was.
I love the way that the physics on the cubes sometimes make it look like little ice cubes dropping.
That was a metaphor.
It looks refreshing.
Talking about you, and I'm sorry. You didn't react at the time, so I was worried it sailed right over your head, which would have made this apology seem insane. That's why I
feel like we all have a
second time just now.
I hope that people have played this game before, because the dialogue is very funny. We're talking over it because, like, there's not much we can say besides, like, GLaDOS's lines are hilarious, really.
Did you know that people with guilty consciences are more easily startled by loud music? I'm sorry. I don't know why that went off. Anyway, just an interesting...
Like, I read that,
fact.
I have the sound turned off because I really prefer to have the game audio off when most of the time we do spoiler warning. And just reading the subtitle made me laugh.
Right. Here's some good shit. We're about to see some good shit.
Before
Yeah.
you could complete the test.
Oh, so like, okay,
Go ahead and grab another
again,
one.
on the assumption that someone watching this hasn't played Portal 1 because it's just too early for them. Oh, here we go.
Oh, no. I fizzled that one.
If you did not play Portal 1, there's a little companion cube. It's a little pink box like that, and you love it so much, it's your favorite, and then you have to kill it. And so the joke is, we're just killing them all now. It's just for fun.
Yeah,
Well,
it's like, people got really into it, even though, like, basically the premise was that they wanted to have a puzzle level where you'd have to carry a cube with you at all times and use it to solve a bunch of different puzzles. So they made it like special, and then people got actually attached to it, and then there were like at the end there's like, unfortunately you have to euthanize it. So then there was a huge meme, like a huge thing in the community, and they're just like so disrespectful right off the bat. It's great.
Okay. So I actually had installed a mod where the companion cube whispers stuff to you. So in the first Portal game, there's a certain mod you can install that where if you're holding the companion cube, it's just like, I love you. You're the best. You're so pretty. I love you so much. And then if you throw... I don't know if it's still around. I don't know if this still exists. If you throw him in the fire, he goes, why did you do that? I still love you. Bye.
But I love the companion cube in part because of what it more suggests about GLaDOS. Because Shell is a silent protagonist in the game, so you don't know what she actually thinks about this stupid thing. It's an inanimate cube. But GLaDOS insists that you love it and insists that they're friends. And I love the idea that GLaDOS thinks that she can either see into what your true beliefs are, or see into your heart, or that she can just tell you what your emotions are. And it just shows you how misguided.
This one is broken.
Yeah, but I also think I feel like this was when Valve really loved to be like, we watch the community very closely and we know how you feel about this thing. And so we're going to make a whole level based off of it because you guys won't shut up about it.
Man, people really went fucking nuts. I'm remembering how nuts my entire cohort and generation went for Portal when I was in high school. 'Cause I was in like, I want to say like junior year when it hit big.
This
Like
next
junior year of
test
high
involves
school.
Emancipation grills. Remember, I told you.
And
about
it was
the last
like-
test area that did not have one.
It completely took like the market share of like people who played video games was a little smaller back then, where it was like not as many people played games, but everyone who played games played Portal, and everybody who played Portal would not shut up about it, and it was just like we were all enjoying the same like shared jokes for what felt like way longer than any cultural content really remains in the cycle these days.
Portal is 100% responsible for me even looking at the orange box. I like credit TF2 for a lot of what I have now in like games and stuff like that, and I guess my husband. But like Portal 2, my best friend in college, she would not stop quoting Portal. Would not stop. And then she kept talking about the song and whatever, and I'm like, fine, I'll check it out. And then I became one of them.
It was it was an amazing confluence of talent and production values in a title that was an excellent introduction to first-person gaming generally,
Yes.
and to like gaming more broadly, and like to fun like story-based gameplay series specifically.
Oh, I spent most of my teen years and my college years, like, I would usually just play Nintendo games, and then I would watch my brother play, like, Fallout and stuff like that, and I was like, this is too heavy for me, I don't understand any of this. And so Portal was actually the first game that I felt confident enough to play, and it taught me how to play first-person games, and I played it on the Xbox first, so, like, I even played it on a TV with a controller, so, I don't know, I think it's kind of a great game for accessibility, just teaching people how these games work.
I think that it taught a lot of people who weren't already into games that just, like, games can be for them.
Yeah.
And it's just a lot about it that was, like, very inviting. Here's, like, a weird thing, actually. Like, this is a topic. Sometimes I want to get somebody into a first-person, like, video games, and before Portal, you know what my game for doing that was?
Huh.
Unreal Tournament.
Yikes.
Well, the reason for that is not because I expected people to actually join an Unreal Tournament server. It's because that game actually has one of the most comprehensive tutorials for, like, how to navigate and maneuver in a first-person environment that I had really ever seen at that point. Like...
that makes sense. I think
really good at
Half-Life
explaining
did too.
stuff like mouse looking. Yeah.
Yeah. The first Half-Life game was one of the games that taught me how to play first-person games as well. Because it would just... It's funny because I didn't really play Half-Life 2 at all. I just played Half-Life 1. But there's a whole tutorial about like how to look, how to shoot, what happens when you take damage, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and in Unreal Tournament, like, the pace they take it at, it's like very concise, like very efficient and like very compressed. But it takes as long as you want with any given part of it. And the thing I like also about it is it does actually get up to combat. Like, it gets as far as you are fighting an opponent. And when you're fighting that opponent, the opponent doesn't take any damage. Like, no damage whatsoever. Like, the other way around. The opponent doesn't inflict any damage. Like, you can't actually get hurt during the tutorial. But it has, like, all the same, like, sound effects and presentation, so it kind of, like, starts to acclimate you to, like, okay, this is an action game, so this is what the action's gonna feel like, but you can take as long as you need to figure this shit out, and just kind of, like, slow down and get it at your own pace and move on when you're ready.
The first Half-Life game is not that different. I felt like the combat didn't escalate very fast. It wasn't until maybe like 3 hours in you have to fight actual dudes. Like, you're just shooting like aliens that kind of hop around like little bunnies before that.
It's like a point-and-click adventure game.
I have a lot of love for the
Half-Life
first
is a point-and-click adventure game.
Yeah.
Well, I'm back.
I think that's one thing that people don't like.
People sending a distress signal.
Go ahead.
One thing people talk about, like, people have talked about it on occasion, but it's an underrepresented aspect, I think, of, like, the marketing for Half-Life 1. Not the marketing, like, of the journalistic discussion of Half-Life 1, is that game is, like, kind of a thrill ride in terms of just, like, being scary. Like, without being a horror game, it's very much about, like, taking people's expectations of, like, what was supposed to happen and, like, what an enemy means, and, like, really challenging them by putting you in lots of situations where there is the appearance of danger without any actually being present, or where there's the feeling of greater danger than is actually being manifested.
Yeah, I agree. I think, like, it kind of, it was playful in a way, too, which also made it kind of interesting. Like, the first time you see one of the, like, head grabber guys, it's kind of playful and weird, and like scientists would die, it'd be kind of funny. Like, they had a way of doing scary stuff without it being like crazy.
When you just press the elevator button and an elevator full of screaming scientists plunges down, that's like still one of the best, like, button gags in any video game.
Or the guy who's on the like ladder and he's like, help me, and then he falls and it's just like, oh well.
Guess you should have learned to do a pull-up.
No, it's funny because I don't really talk about Half-Life 1 a lot, but to me it's one of the most like transformative games for me personally. It just totally taught me how to play these games and enjoy them, so I love it.
So did you ever play Black Mesa?
I did play Black Mesa. I found it too scary, actually. It actually is too scary. It leans too far into the horror for me, so it was no longer fun. It was more like hectic and stressful.
Yeah, I guess like the higher fidelity makes it a little less cartoony.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but,
it's like more intense.
But like, my snake is named after Benry from the Half-Life 2, if the AI is alive. Like, any kind of, like, and of course, Mr. Like, what was it called? Like, Mind of Freeman? Freeman's Mind? Come on, Freeman's Mind?
The guy is still doing Half-Life 2, actually.
Oh my god, dude.
Yeah, it took him like 5,000 years to get there, but now he's on Half-Life 2.
Okay, Bubbles, I don't know if you were around for this, but when he finished Half-Life 1, the credits of his video were just full, like, as he's like scrolling through talking about comments, like scrolling through and like stuff like, you know, crediting various things. He has got two things that are running on like the sides. One of them is just clips of various times the engines would like fuck him over and like wouldn't work properly, and the other is just comments of people saying that the series was dead and was never gonna finish.
Oh, I'll have to go back and watch it. It's tough because you can just get endless content from Half-Life 1. You can always find someone who tries a new creative thing with that game.
Did you ever play Synergy with us?
Which one is Synergy?
Or not Synergy. Because I think Synergy's the Half-Life 2 co-op, but there's a Half-Life 1 Sven co-op. Where you can play Half-Life 1 as with co-op, and it's nuts.
There's a YouTuber, Marfinimus Blackimus, who does. He used to do a series on obscure FPSs, and they ran another series on like things about the Half-Life engine and like design and like AI, most specifically, that like people don't know about or that hasn't been discussed. And it ran for like, I feel like he did like 30 episodes on it. Because it was full of shit that you never think about. Like, if you watch these like monsters when they're alone, they like exhibit all these minor behaviors that you never noticed because you always just ran in and shot them.
Wow. I love that.
Yeah.
Anyway, Portal, I guess. Actually, I have a question. Why do you think I like Half-Life 1, but I don't like Half-Life 2? I played probably like an hour of Half-Life 2 and then was like, this is not for me.
That's a good question. I think maybe because Half-Life 1 is cheesier than Half-Life 2.
That's on brand for me, for sure.
Yeah, like, when you said cartoony, it actually clicked for me for the first time almost, that like, Half-Life 1 actually has kind of a cartoony art style, doesn't it? Like, some of it's just graphics limitations of the era, but like, it didn't feel like it was striving super hard for realism.
No, not at all.
Like, the scientists look like Einstein, for fuck's sake. You compare that to like Half-Life 2, which looks hauntingly realistic, just about like as an Eastern Bloc area.
Yeah.
That is also being occupied by extremely like finely rendered gross aliens.
It felt so serious, whereas like Half-Life 1 never felt very serious to me. It felt like kind of funny and gross, which I like. I like funny and gross.
There's a pulpiness. I mean, there's a pulpiness in Half-Life 2 too, because it's very War of the Worlds, very that sort of 50s, 60s invasion movie. But Half-Life 1 is like an adventure, right? Like, oops, we fucked up the world and introduced aliens, and now the cops are here to stop us. Let's just fight everything and put it all back and save the day. And Half-Life 2 basically opens with like, we are in year 17 of the occupation. Everything is dour, and it starts very dour and ends very dour. The game's never really tongue-in-cheek the way Half-Life 1 is.
You said that it actually like completely clicked for me. Half-Life is War of the Worlds, the 1953 movie. Half-Life 2 is War of the Worlds, the 2005 movie with Tom Cruise. It's basically like a 9/11 movie through the back door.
I don't think this is going to work. Oh, we're doing this.
This is the point where you know that you fucked up in Portal, where you're just sort of levitating between portals.
You have a lot of time to think about what you should have done to not be doing this.
Have yourself a little thinking. Well, you know what? We're basically at time, more or less. Especially if I'm gonna
back here next week.
Oh my god, we have to.
Alright, tune in next week.
So I'm gonna do this for about a week and see if I figure out a solution. And if not, then I guess we'll just stay here forever.
Imagine leaving this with the sound effects, like, just in the background on your computer for an entire week.
I would.
I have the sound off, but I can hear this.
It would drive me crazy within 8 hours.